put chords to it that would change the meaning of the melody. Instead of reached out to Steve Vai, Guthrie, and Brian May, and all these people, and said, this song needs you.
What's going on, folks? My name is Scott Schertzen alongside Mr. Brandon Kay, and joining us today, special guest, guitarist for Guns N' Roses, Sons of Apollo, Asia, new album right now that just came out with Steve Vai and also Sir Brian May from Queen. Today, very grateful for this, excited for the opportunity to talk to Mr. Ron Thal, aka Bumblefoot. Sir, how the hell are you, man?
I am good. I am very good. Yes, how are you guys doing?
Doing all right. Appreciate it.
Doing terrific.
Yeah. So right now, congrats. You got the new album that just came out. I know basically you've got a lot of things in the pipeline. You got Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. You have School of Rock. You got a lot of cool things on the horizon. Just what's on your mind? Let's talk, man.
Yeah. So next thing coming up, I'm going to play at Dingbats with like 4 of the School of Rock school bands. And we're going to all do a nice little concert together. In support of their summer tour that they're doing. And then in November, I'm doing another Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, 2 weeks of it with Rob Halford and Alice Cooper, and a bunch more going to be added. So that's going to be great. I love doing this kind of stuff. At this point in my life, when I was younger, it was all about, let's get on the road and live on the road and die on the road and everything in between. And now it's more about what can I pass on to other people and how can I support the next batch of people that want to live and die on the road. So I do a lot of producing of bands, a lot of starting up bands and helping them launch what they're doing, and love doing all the teaching type stuff, School of Rocks and fantasy camps, and I do my own Bumblefoot camps as well. I've done a lot of them in Ireland. It's a beautiful spot in the north of Ireland where there's a dear friend of mine, Owen, that has this studio, Wildwater Studios, and you can live there and record there, and it's this beautiful spot where there's more sheep than people, and the butter is amazing, Kerrygold, and shout out to Kerrygold Butter, and wonderful place. So that is what I'm doing. I'm making a lot of music in the studio, which is where I am right now. This is a second house that I got about almost 25 years ago that I just gutted and turned into a place to make noise. And that's where I do all the producing and all the music for video games and TV shows and horror movies, and bringing bands in here and recording them and making my own albums and some teaching and anything else. This is just the place to make noise. Yeah.
And settle into the life now. Yeah. Brandon, you got anything?
I was going to say that you have such a hand in, pushing forward this new generation, the next generation. Is there a band or an artist specifically that you think right now is like, man, if they really stick to the direction they're going, they could really be at the top of the genre and really kind of rock. We're in a generation where rock is kind of somewhat back mainstream right now. It's still the pop and the hip hop and all that stuff is top in the charts. I mean, we have Ghost now that reached the top of the chart recently. So that rush of the rock that's coming back to the top is there. Is there a band or artist that you think can really carry the flag there?
Oh, there's a ton of them. There's so many good ones out there. If you want a band that has everything, musically, intellectually, just like a combination of Frank Zappa, Dream Theater, Incubus, just incredible melodies, incredible playmanship and orchestration. A band called Thank You Scientist, one of my favorite bands out there, and they're from Jersey, and just incredible. Drums, bass, guitar, vocals, 2 horn players, and a violinist. In fact, the violinist is who I hired to play on my album and on one of the songs. They're just amazing, an incredible band. Thank You, Scientist. Now, for something that's more garage rock, somewhere in the vein of like 90s alternative rock, anything from, picture a mix of Weezer and Nirvana and Radiohead. There's a band I've been working with for years called the Dodies, Dodies. They just put out their third album, and they are incredible. Two dudes, the singing guitar player, incredible vocal range and dimension to his voice. He gets so many sounds out of his voice, so much dynamics to his voice, and incredible, deep, insightful lyrics, and just great songwriting. The drummer plays a whole drum set with just one arm, and with his other hand, he's playing bass on a keyboard at the same time and singing backing vocals. And the two of them are just locked in and great and put on a killer show and have great songs. And that's a band that needs to be way higher up, and people should be aware of them.
Yeah, well, you've given me some homework. I'm gonna check them out.
Yes, check them out. Do a deep dive. Listen to all their albums. They're fantastic. The Dodies, Dodies.
Got you on that.
All their social media stuff, just look up the Dodies band and you'll find anything from them with that moniker. Now there's another one that's about to put out their first album. It's a band from Baltimore, and they're so interesting. The core of the music is like Simon and Garfunkel folk, with great storytelling lyrics, like such good stories. And on top of that, it sounds like 2000s era bands like Three Doors Down and Creed. And picture like Slash style guitar player in the band. So imagine a combination of Creed, Simon and Garfunkel, and Slash. Like that's kind of what this band sounds like. And they're about to put out their first album, and they're called Shavrock, Shavrock. They are Orthodox Jews, the beard and the yarmulkes, and they fucking rock. And they're from Baltimore, and their rabbi, their last name is Shavrik, and he said, you should call your band Shavrock. And so they stuck with that. And they're just the coolest dudes, and they're just great. They write great songs. So yeah, their album is going to be out probably around August. If you're into doom, the doomiest of doom metal, where it sounds like you're taking metal and slowing it down to quarter speed. Everything's just vocals. A band I've been working with for, my God, since 1998, called Evoken. And they put out a lot of albums in the late 90s, early 2000s, put out a few more. Since then, we just got back in the studio together and did a new album that'll be out, I think, around September. And it sounds so good. And if you're into that kind of music, these guys are the epitome of that. So yeah, these are bands to look out for in different styles of rock that I highly recommend.
That works too.
Yay. Yes, good recommendation.
Hashtag recommend. I love it. So, but yeah, good. Congratulations, man. Like I said, that's actually good to know because that answers the question perfectly in this case. But yeah, let's talk about what you got going on. You know, how did the collab? Now, right now, straight up, my wife is jealous as heck of who you have on this album right here. You know, Brian May especially. Talk a little bit. How did that collab come about? You know, how was that experience? Talk a little bit about anything that comes to mind with that.
Well, we first spoke, met, emailed. I think we met in 2006 at a show in London, I think. But I know we were emailing back and forth a few years later and stayed in touch. I remember one time I was doing a solo tour and Queen was doing a tour at the same time, and like every city I played, they were playing the next night, and we were hitting each other, like we were in touch, just like, I'm missing you by one day. And just to Yeah, we just always just kind of stayed in touch. I tried not to bother him too much. At one point, well, when I started working on the album, there were certain songs that just seemed like they were just, they needed somebody else to be the final puzzle piece that completes that song. And it wasn't me. I could shave the edges of myself and force myself in there, but it wouldn't be the real thing. So I reached out to the actual people that I thought would be perfect for these songs, that almost like when the songs came together, as the songs were just building themselves and moving toward the finish line, and you're getting an idea of what they're going to be, you could just hear a certain person's spirit in that song that you don't have, that only they have. So I would reach out to those people. Reached out to Steve Vai, Guthrie, and Brian May, and all these people, and said, this song needs you. Would you be on the song? And they said, yeah. And they, everyone works remotely these days.
Yeah,
and they laid their thing. They sent me the tracks. I put them in, showed them the mix, and good. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm grateful to every one of them, because this album, if it was just me, it would have been missing so much. There's so much that everyone else brought to it, starting with the drummer, Kyle Hughes. Incredible drummer. I met him when he was 16 years old in Newcastle, UK. I was touring, doing a solo tour, and his band, actually it was 2015, 10 years ago. And his band reached out and said, we'll be your backing band for this show if you want. We'll learn all the songs and play. So we did that. Like, they opened and they stayed on stage, and then I came out and we did another set, and the drummer really stood out. He just nailed everything. He was a great showman, just the sweetest kid in the world. His parents were wonderful, good backing vocalist, just a stand-up young dude. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I want him to be my drummer from here on. And he was. So as I did more touring in France and Romania and the US, he was my drummer. And he still is. He's gone on to do lots of great things, playing with Richie Kotzen and Graham Bonnet and Marco Mendoza, and now he's playing with Paul Stanley's son, Evan Stanley. They have a band together, and he's doing great things, and he deserves nothing but fantastic drummer. So he laid all the crazy drum tracks on this album, except for one song. That song, Once in Forever, that Brian May is on. I have another old dear friend named Jerry Gaskill from the band King's X, one of my favorite bands ever. And Jerry is such a wonderful guy. And he's just got that Bonham-y pocket and feel and everything. He's just, yeah. So we would always go out to dinner, with our wives, and eating and talking about music and whatever. And always saying, yeah, we got to do something together. We got to do a song together. So I thought that would be, of everything, if Jerry was going to play on a song, that one would really show his feel and his taste and everything he does. So he came in here and had a drum set ready for him, and he laid it down right there where I'm pointing. And it was great. Yeah. So Jerry laid drums on that song. Kyle did the rest of the album. Bass, I laid bass. Derek Sherinian, he heard the song with Brian and Jerry, and almost sounds like an ice cream company, Brian and Jerry. And he heard my fake VST plug-in B3 keyboard, and he's like, come on, man, you need a real one in there. So his big, giant Hammond B3, and put that in there. And then, yeah, let's keep talking about guests. So when I first decided that I was going to make another instrumental album, because the very first album I made was instrumental. And it came out in 1995, 30 years ago. and it was on the label Shrapnel Records, which was a guitar-oriented label. And I didn't plan on it. Like originally, I met Shrapnel in 1989. The guy who runs the label, Mike Varney, he was writing for a guitar magazine, Guitar Player magazine. He had a column called Spotlight Column, and he reviewed my little guitar demo of just, I always wanted to do a band. I always wanted to be in a band. I was raised on Kiss, the Beatles, classic rock bands. That's what I wanted. I did not want to be a guitarist. I did not want to be an instrumentalist. I just wanted to be a contributor to a band with a team that made songs that made people feel as lifted as I felt when I heard all my favorite bands. And that was always my goal, and I would say no to everything else. But on the side, just for fun, I would make these ridiculous, silly, funny songs, instrumental songs, some not instrumental. And people would suggest to me, you ought to send that in to the guitar magazine, see if they'll give you a write-up. I'm like, I just do these for fun. This is not my path. This is not my goal. And I was like, all right, what the hell? So I sent in a demo, and Mike Varney reviewed it, gave it a wonderful review. He offered to have me do an album on the label. And I told him that I really wanted to stay on the path of just doing vocal music, a band, a rock band, doing what I'm doing. And we always stayed in touch. And his brother also had a label, Mark Varney, called Legato Records. And both Shrapnel and Legato would do these instrumental compilation CDs of different guitarists, different songs that they would put out. So I would do those, and I would do a song on those over the years in the early 90s. And then in 1994, Mike Varney told me that he wanted to make a branch off of his label that does vocal music. And I said, okay, let's do it. Yes. And we signed. And after I signed, he said, okay, but I'd like you to do an instrumental album just to start things off. Like, and now I'm bound to a contract. And I asked him, I was like, will you let me out of this contract? And he said, no, you're going to see this through. And so I did an instrumental album, and I enjoyed it. I did. That was called The Adventures of Bumblefoot, where Bumblefoot was this half bee, half foot superhero-looking character that just looked almost comic bookish, the cover of the album. And I designed it all on Corel Draw 4.0 in 1994, just bending curved lines and filling in gradient colors over the course of weeks, and then sending like a 1.5 megabyte JPEG file to the label on, using AOL and probably a 7800 baud modem overnight. It took 14 hours because I kept getting booted in the middle. At 3 a.m. I was just here, goodbye. It's like, shit. So
Kids today have no knowledge of any of that.
That's
you got mail. Send it again. And until finally it made it all the way through to the good old days. So I named every song on that album after a different animal disease. Veterinarians would be familiar with many of the titles. Bumblefoot, Orf, Scrapey, Blue Tongue, Limberneck, Q Fever, Fistulous Withers, Strawberry Foot Rot, Ick, Rinderpest, Fistulous Withers, did I say that already? Bastard Strangles, so many. Yes, Malignant Carbuncle.
Yep.
And then after that, I worked on a vocal album, put that out, and then I was done with the label and started my own record label for the sole purpose of just putting out my own music, so that I had control over it and never have to worry about it not being available or not. Yeah, just see, with Shrapnel Records, after I left, the albums weren't available anymore, and they stopped manufacturing, and people couldn't get the albums anymore. And I asked if Shrapnel would even license my own albums to me on my own label just so I could make them available, and they wouldn't. So those two albums for the longest time were extinct for about 10 years or so, maybe 15 years, until The Orchard bought their catalog and put them back out. So at that point, I never wanted that to happen ever again. So I started my own label where I own the recordings, I own the publishing, and when the Osbournes reaches out and says, "We want some music for our show," here you go. When VH1 reaches out and says, "We want some music for this show," you have it. I could say yes to anything I want, and I did. And the music was all over the place, all over every TV show on MTV, theme songs for That Metal Show. That was one of my songs. There was a show on
they'd come back with that.
That was such a great show.
I love it.
Yeah, everybody misses it. Yeah. MXC. Extreme Challenge. It was this weird game show, this Japanese game show, almost like a mixture of game show and Jackass, where people really.
A lot of the Japanese game shows can be like that.
And that was on Spike TV, and I did the theme song to that one. And so I was doing a lot of music for TV shows, video games, things like that. Now that I had control over my own music. So that was great. And I had distributors around the world that either I would manufacture and send to them, or they would manufacture and keep an extra buck for themselves. And so I was in business. And then I got this place and started producing a ton of bands. I would produce a lot of the New York hardcore bands in the late 90s when I had a studio in Brooklyn and then Staten Island. But a lot of producing local bands. And then when touring got busier, and that slowed down. And now I'm making more time for doing the producing again, which I love more than being on the road. I like being a coach more than being on the field. I like helping other people get on the field.
I get that. I was going to ask a simple question on this. No, it's okay. Great. No, dude, you're awesome. Don't even. I did want to ask this question in this case here, since you've been, you mentioned, you've been on this for about 30 years now. With things like Source Connect and everything being as remote as it is, do you find it's easier? Do you find it's harder? Do you find what are your thoughts? Like I said, you in this case here, all the stuff was done remotely and they just added in through, either Adobe or Audacity or however you're going to be running with it. Do you find it's easier? Do you find it loses a little something? What's your thoughts about the changes technologically wise in the last bunch of years?
Well, there are certain times that you want to be in the room together and have the eye contact and lock in with each other. And there's just something magical about it that doesn't need a nudging or anything. It just feels right as you play it and it's good to go. First Sons of Apollo album, we played all in the room together, all the bed tracks. The Doties, every album, they're in a room together playing. Nothing is, drums and then lay guitars. No, they're looking right at each other in the same room. But in order to schedule a bunch of busy people to do stuff, and if it's just a guest spot on someone's record, for them to stop what they're doing and fly across the planet to lay that down is not always doable. So you can have so many more collaborations and things that wouldn't be possible otherwise if you didn't do it remotely. So in that sense, the remote thing is fantastic. And during the pandemic, look at all the incredible collaborations that happened that couldn't have if not for remote recording and sending each other the files and doing it that way. So I think the pluses outweigh the minuses. Oh, okay. So back to 1989. So I got my first write-up in the Guitar Magazine. It was the start of legitimacy. And I had this riff from back then that I never used in a song. It was just this thing that always stayed in the back of my head. It was... And it was just something I just kept on a shelf collecting dust for years and years and years, thinking, oh, maybe one of these days I'll turn that into a song. So the pandemic hits, Sons of Apollo has to kill our 20-date tour after 4 shows. Our gear is locked away. We're all here. It's a lockdown. I had this song that a riff that I had written for the second Sons of Apollo album that I kind of held back and said, you know what, I'm going to save this for myself. So I took that riff and said, all right, I'm going to turn that into a song. And it was a song called Planetary Lockdown. That's what I called it, easy to come up with that title. So I finished that and put that out as a single, and then started working with Derek Sherinian on more music, which became the Whom Gods Destroy album. And then I thought about it, I was like, you know what? A lot of people ask, hey, would you ever do another instrumental album? We all have the gift of time, unexpected time suddenly. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do one while there's time before I have to get back on the runaway hamster wheel. So the first thing I did is, well, I said, all right, I have 2 songs already done. There was this Planetary Lockdown song, and there's one the year before in 2019 that I put out, another instrumental song. So I'm already 2 that I could put towards the album. And I went back and said, all right, let me take that song from 1989, that riff, and turn it into a song. So that's the first thing I did, thinking that I'm going to make an album. And I took that idea and just recorded it, and then just added a melody on top. And just a spontaneous melody. I was like, yeah, that works. And then it's like, all right, now it needs to build. So I took the same melody, but changed the foundation, made it, instead of subdued, and made it get big. And just put chords to it that would change the meaning of the melody. Instead of it being this sort of saddish thing, now it's something a little more hopeful. And then just figure out where to go from there, and just use your instincts. Where do you feel it going next? And then you just take that feeling and put it into a musical language. And so I finished the song, and it had this break in the middle where I just expected like a long jammy solo over that riff. And I thought about it. It's like 1989 is where the song came from. It's when everything started for me. It's where I'm starting this album. And when I had that write-up in the magazine, there was this teenage kid from England that sent me a handwritten letter, said, hi, my name is Guthrie. I'm a guitar player in the UK. You must be the USA. And here's my demo. And I'd love to hear your demo. And we became these pen pals where we'd write each other these handwritten letters from across the pond and send each other cassettes of our little demos and ideas and handwritten transcriptions. Here's what I did for this crazy guitar part. It's kind of weird. Check this out. And we were these guitar buddies as teenage kids, just writing to each other. And then when I would tour, I would always, he'd always be invited to a show, and if he could make it, and we would jam, and if we could go to a NAMM convention and just sit on the floor for an hour and jam together. When he worked on his first album, I laid a guest solo on a song called Rhode Island Shred. So I thought, you know what? He would be the perfect person to do just some trading back and forth, because he was my first guitar friend from that first moment, and it all happened at the same time in '89. The start of the album, the start of just everything, so it sort of completed like a circle of time in a way of starting things off. So he was my first guest on the album. And there was that meaning behind it. It was personal. It was like, all right, back from when we all just kind of started. And then with Brian, the song, it was so melodic. And can you turn this back up? it just sounds Queenish with the guitars doing that and everything. And all I could picture is just his phrases in between doing something right there. Doing something. And so I asked him, I sent him the song and he laid it down. Yeah. It's like, beautiful, perfect, thank you. The song Steve Vai is on, called Monstruoso, it has this dub step kind of like, keyboard thing, it sounds like a monster's voice. And it had this guitar part where everything breaks down. And it gets pretty crazy, the guitar part is like, what was it? Just all over the place. And all I could picture is when it comes out, just everything slamming back in, and just like, just an alien screaming at you and attacking you on the guitar. And the person on this planet that can do that best, to make the guitar just channel an alien out of their guitar, is Steve Vai. So I asked him, would you lay something down there? And he did. And sure enough, it's the weirdest guitar solo, because I transcribed this whole album and put out a book where every finger, every picking direction, every single detail, the musical notation, the frets and the strings of every sound made by a stringed instrument on that album. We narrowed it down to 344 pages. And that's without including the musical notation in the physical copy. Otherwise, the thing would have been like 800 pages, which is a bit much. So figuring out his solo was the most impossible task I have ever taken on, because he's using this momentary switch that changes the entire pitch of everything, and he's got a harmonizer on there that's adding these weird harmonies so that a single note sounds like 3 different notes, with that going and a wah pedal and just all the weird tapping and bending the bar. It took about 3 weeks, hours and hours a day of analyzing his guitar part at different speeds, slowed down to like nothing, so I could hear if he accidentally moves his finger and you hear an open string like ring out or something, just to try and figure out where his hand was and everything. And I would check with everyone and I'd send them and say, does it look right to you? And yeah, tricky stuff. So who else? Yeah. And then Ben Karras, the violinist from Thank You, Scientist. I had this very sad song for piano, and then as I was putting it together, I realized it needed different instrumentation. It needed to sound more like a funeral procession, of just people just walking, dragging their feet on gravel, and just a bell, ding, and a timpani, boom, boom. Like just an old funeral procession, like in Louisiana, 100 years ago. And it needed a crying violin. And I asked Ben, and he just laid the most beautiful violin part to it. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. Nice. So every guest really completed the song in a way that I certainly couldn't do myself. And just what the song needed. It's about the song. And I am just forever grateful to them for making this album what it is, because it couldn't be without them. Yeah.
Nice. Good for you, man. I'm proud of you. No, seriously, I am. I remember, when I met you a couple years ago, you were just so chill in everything, and I was always grateful for that. So, appreciated that. Brand, I had a couple more questions. I want to talk about Dingbats and the fantasy camp coming up. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Brandon, did you have anything yourself first before I get to that?
Yeah, you mentioned work in video games. I actually didn't know that you had work in video games. What games did you contribute music to? You don't have to really go
Maybe
into
that's
it.
that
I
one
just
too.
just if you could list a couple, because I'm a gamer too. So
Okay. Do you know some older games too? Some like vintage stuff?
Have you seen the back here for me?
Okay, yeah. But all right, when Sega first put out their CD-ROM system in the mid-90s, it was the first time there was actual recorded sound in video games. Everything was 8-bit, boop, 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 boop,
Right.
boop, boop, kind of stuff. And this is the first time there's CD quality, 16-bit real audio. So I did the entire soundtrack for one of the early Sega CD-ROM games. This weird game called Wild Woody.
I remember that one.
It was like a pencil that would
Yep.
draw and erase its enemies and
I had
go
a
through
Sega
all these
CD, so I
different
remember that.
worlds of like a pirate world and a cemetery and sci-fi and all different things. And yeah, so I did 28 songs and just everything in between. If you win, if you lose, the bonus round, like just a million different songs for it. That was the first one. Then I would just contribute a lot of different songs. There was like Outlaw Volleyball. There was, let me jump on my website. Let me find a few, because I'm going to forget them all if I don't look. All right, let's see. Discography, if you go to bumblefoot.com, it is a very in-depth discography that goes through my albums, bands I've been in, older stuff, TV, film, and video games, tribute and comp CDs, guest appearances, and things that I produced. And it took weeks, but I got links to all of them, so that if you go to, let's say, guest appearances, there's hundreds of songs, and if you click on the song title, it'll take you to the Spotify or the YouTube video or whatever they have, so that you can hear everybody's music. So let's see, TV, video game, let's see. Okay, there was Wild Woody in '95. Let's see, Outlaw Volleyball in 2003. Test Drive Eve of Destruction for PlayStation and Xbox. That was from Atari in 2004. What else? Let's see, Rig and Roll video game in 2010. What else is on here? Wasteland Wars. That's all that's on here. Okay, so it's not a ton, but those. Oh wait, geez, there was all Rock Band. They had Rock Band Network, where I had like tons of songs on there, and I'm going to be taking some songs from this album, and there's a lot of things like Yarg, Y-A-R-G. I think it's for Yet Another Rhythm Game is what it stands for, and there's another one. What is the name of it? But they're similar to Rock Band type games that are online, and they were all just like, just open source free games, just for for the love of it. So I've been making stems and donating music to those so that people can play. There's also, I have a Simon in Space video game. Did you know about that? No. Okay. When I put out the album, we made a free retro space shooter video game. If you go to my website, bumblefoot.com, if you go to like the news section, there's a thing for it. But let me flip the camera so you can see this. Let me all right, let me go back to this and flip to this screen, and then I can tap here and find the camera flip. Okay. If you go, here's an easy link to play it online. SIS, as in Simon in Space, .gloomyware, that's the company that made it. Radek Grabinski, he's a wonderful friend and has this great video game company, gloomyware.com. And let's see. Hopefully I have sound on this. Let's see if I do or not. But all it is a very simple game like the old space shooter games. Yep. New game.
That's so bad.
And you're Simon and his spaceship. Simon is my cat, by the way, and he's the one on the artwork. So you just hold it down and it rapid fires. And you shoot.
I shoot him up. Classic shoot him up.
All the aliens and you collect the points. Now, these guys are shooting at you, so you gotta get them and dodge. Alright, doing good here. Right, these motherfuckers.
Let's set you up for a let's play here.
Look at them up there. Look at you. Nuh-uh. Oh, no. Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Well, so there is that
That's
game
awesome.
as well. If that counts,
100% counts.
100% counts. Yes, sir.
100%.
it's a fun one. There's a few people that have won the game. They've played all the way to the end. I usually can't get past like a few hundred in my score. I suck. But yeah. So there's that.
It's awesome.
Love that.
It's awesome. So, yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like I said, with all the games that you had, and yeah, I'm old enough to remember the Sega CD. I had one back in the day too. But yeah, talk a little bit if you don't mind. We'll probably wrap up in a couple minutes if it's okay. But talk a little bit. Like I said, you got the Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp with Alice Cooper. I wanted to go into that. When are you playing at Dingbats also? Because Dingbats in Clifton, right?
Yeah.
I've
Love
been
that
there.
place.
I've been
Such
there
a
before. It's
good
an awesome place.
It's just a cool
It is.
rock bar, rock club. Just it's the place. Yeah.
Yeah. When are you going to be playing there?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
That's the funny part is I'll be finding out in the next few days
me
what
posted.
songs, because there's going to be 4 different School of Rock bands that are playing, and I'm going to hop up with each one and do a song.
Nice.
But I don't know what song yet. So I'm very curious to find out. But that's going to be this Friday, June 6th.
Okay.
Coming right up. Yeah.
That's
So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to bring my hot sauce. Oh, wait. Did you know about the hot sauce? I have a
No,
hot sauce
we're gonna
company.
know about that now, sir.
You make hot sauce?
Yes, for God, since 2013 we launched. All right, time for the hot sauce pitch. I am all
We're going
about
for a walk.
hot sauce. So, yes. So for this album, we put it out on vinyl, on CD, on cassette, and of course streaming and download. And then there's the transcription book and backing track, so people could learn how to play it and play along with, with them playing the lead part. There is all kinds of merch. I will make some new hot sauces to go along with the album as well. All my guitar sounds, by the way, this is my Swiss cheese room. I can never sell this place.
I that's so cool.
And they're 3-dimensional holes. Like I did multiple layers of drywall so that you can.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I ruined a house. How do you ruin a house? You paint it yellow and fill it with black holes.
You didn't ruin it. You made it what made you happy, man.
No.
You know.
That's a selling point in my eyes.
Exactly. There you go.
If you ever choose. But
Yes.
All right.
that's awesome.
You ever want a Swiss cheese room in a house? So, this sauce here, I wanted an all-purpose everything sauce, something that just goes with every kind of food I like to put hot sauce on. It's very flavorful. It is mild. Being that it's an all-purpose sauce that goes with Italian, it goes with Mexican, it goes with Mediterranean, it goes with Thai food, it goes with Chinese food, it goes with anything that you want to give a little kick and a little flavor to. So it is called the sauce. That is the name of this one, just small purpose. This is the sauce that you want to
The
keep on your
sauce.
table, to put on your morning eggs, and to put on whatever else you're going to eat throughout the day. Has Mediterranean herbs. It is delicious.
Nice.
Is a two-time award-winning sauce at Zest Fest in Dallas, the biggest food festival of spicy food. And then there's a barbecue-y one that has cherry, bourbon, chipotle, and this one also mild and also an award winner at Zest Fest. Yes, thank you, Zest Fest. And this one is great for stir fry, for steak, for chicken, for things that you would put something more barbecue-y on. And this one is called Bumblicious.
Love the label.
Thank you. And then for people that like pain, you'd be surprised how many there are. It's the best-selling sauce. This stuff is so hot that if you take a dot the size of a pinhead and put it on your tongue, you will be on fire your entire torso for about 10 minutes, maybe 15.
Dare I ask what the Scoville rating is on that?
It's between 4 and 6 million. And it's very brutal.
Can you get on First We Feast with that?
One drop will heat up an entire bowl of chili, entire plate of anything.
By the way, that name is perfect too.
That's
perfect.
I lied. That's the best label.
Bumble.
That's so great.
Yeah. And this stuff I have to warn everybody.
Probably got a label on it too, I'd imagine.
It's a dot. Yeah. As right in the corner, I should probably put it bigger. Like,
hey, you covered yourself legally, man.
Hey, that's true. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, let's see if we can get that on First We Feast. You know, we'll get like Ryan Reynolds to try it or something like that too.
you know, I should.
Yeah, why not?
I should hit them up.
Where can we purchase this hot sauce?
Yeah, that's a good question.
They did a blog, God, in 2016, I think it was, where they were saying the 10 hottest sauces in the world right now. And they mentioned Bumblefoot as, I think,
Nice.
number 3. Yeah.
Yeah, that's out of my wheelhouse, that's for sure. But yeah, where can you get it, man?
So cool. So I have really gone all out for this album. I've done all of that stuff. There's retail distribution as well through the wonderful label Deco Records. Fantastic record label, wonderful guys. So they are taking the album and making it available on Amazon and in retail everywhere. So if you go to a record store and you ask for this album, they can get it if they don't already have it. Thanks to Deco. Thank you, Deco. And in the UK, Cargo Records, they're like a partner with Deco. So it's available for Europe and UK through Cargo. Thank you, Cargo. What else? There's all the guitar sounds, all the weird guitar sounds on the album. I made the presets available, all my tones, so that people that have the Helix pedal, like the same pedal that I use, they could download all the sounds and have the exact guitar sounds from the album. Because there's some weird, interesting sounds that experiment a lot with multiple delays and filters and things. So, yes, and I must show you the stuff. Okay, the cassette.
Nice.
With lots of art. Yo, let me bring these over. I'm going to show you these.
Listen, cassettes are coming back. The 80s in general are coming back. You know, a little bit of member berries going on with that. So
It's like music is available in so many different ways, but if you want something that embodies music in some way, but is also just an item to, you know, a collector's item or just a merch item, that's how I look at these things now. It's like a lot of people, they might listen to a cassette, but if you want something different than the usual, you know, you get a hat from a band, you get a hoodie, you get a shirt, a cassette. Yes, and the thing we love about physical stuff is all the artwork, so I did not skimp. I made sure that for everything, I went the extra mile and put a ton of artwork wherever I could. So the cassette rolls out into a bunch of art. The CD Okay, so you got the CD, front, back, opens up. You have the CD itself, of course. You got the disc there, but it comes with not a stapled booklet, but a fold-out little mini poster.
Nice.
So there's that,
Love
but
that.
the real thing is the vinyl. Now with vinyl, there is a certain amount of length of music per side that you want to have. If it's too short, people are running over to the turntable too often. If it's too long, the sound gets worse. So for the amount of sound I had on this, I thought it would be best to do 3 sides of music and 1 side of art. So here is the album. Boom! And it opens up. It's 2 discs, both with full art. And this one. And then on side 4, I did UV pressing.
That's so
Pretty.
cool.
Yeah. So sides 1, 2, and 3 have the music. Side 4 has printing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, it's awesome.
Yeah, that is really. It's beautiful artwork too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So yeah, when you put out albums these days, so many times it's just, oh yeah, my album is out. Go on Spotify and that's that. I wanted this to be like the old days where when an album comes out, it's like an event. There's a lot that happens with it. So a transcription book, guitar tones, the merch, the physical stuff, everything.
Well, it's funny, as things get more based on digital, there's been a lot of pushback about whether or not you own it. There was a comment, there have been comments about just because you buy it doesn't mean you own it. So people are making the push back to vinyl, CDs, and things, not just in music, but in everything in general, because buying is ownership. So there is a lot to the fact that you're doing that right now with the new album. Yeah.
And sales have been well. Thank you, everybody. There's been wonderful support, and the physical stuff is doing really well, and I'm so grateful to everybody for that. You just want to do this. You just want to make people happy with this shit.
Sure.
Make things that people enjoy, and if I'm making that happen, good. I'll die happy.
Perfect. So, yeah, and like I said, November, you got, Fantasy Camp with Alice Cooper. How can we find out about that, by the way?
If you go to rockcamp.com,
Okay.
all the information is on there, and those things are just fantastic. Those fantasy camps are just such a good time. You have a bunch of strangers that are put together in a band. It's almost like a reality show, just without the cameras on. And we all have to learn a bunch of songs to play with Alice Cooper, with Rob Halford, with whoever else they're going to be getting. Plus, we get to choose our own songs and do 2 shows at venues. And then there's like jam rooms where you could just jam whatever with whoever. And a lot of times after 10 p.m. at the hotel, there's acoustic jams going till 1 in the morning. You're just living music for a good 4 days. And it's fantastic.
Dude, that's awesome. Where's it going to be located?
I don't even know yet.
Okay.
I know it's going to be in Phoenix.
Okay.
Or either Phoenix or Scottsdale, like somewhere in the area. But I don't know which hotel yet. I don't know which venues. I don't know any of that yet. But I guess as it gets updated, it'll be on their website.
Nice. We got a state, though. We know where it's going to be.
Yes, we do.
Get that part done.
That much we got.
Good. So, nice. We'll figure we'll wrap this up at this point. Brandon, do you have anything else at this point?
No. I just wanted, we were talking before we started the show, but to the fans, you were part of my first concert many, many years ago. So to do this now with you is very full circle. And I just love talking to you. I could hear you talk about whatever you wanted all day long. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure has been mine. Thank you so much. And as creepy as it sounds, I'm Happy to be your first.
You were gentle that way.
No, you've created a lifelong memory, and to your point of making people happy, you definitely have.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you
Appreciate
so
it,
much.
man. So yeah, one more time, Ron Bumblefoot Thal has the new album right now, alongside Steve Vai and also Sir Brian May. Definitely check it out. As always, this is Streampunk Entertainment, chatting with awesome people. I'm Scott Churchson. That's Brandon K. And one more time, Bumblefoot himself. Thanks as always. Take care and stay awesome.